All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Countless Vlogcast. My guest today is Latricia Pitts, mental health professional. I'm going to bring her on. She'll talk a little about what she does, a little about coping mechanisms, and the importance of therapy. All right, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
So tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I specialize in anger, addiction, marriage and family therapy, trauma, and clinical supervision. I'm located in Georgia, but licensed in multiple states, Georgia, Florida, New Jersey,
Okay,
Oregon,
great.
Minnesota, Massachusetts. There's a list. So like in multiple states. So yeah.
So when did you start therapy?
When did I become
When did you become a therapist?
I became a therapist in 2010. Yeah. Oh wow, it's been 10 years.
So what was your journey like to become a therapist?
It was a challenging journey, to be honest. I am the first graduate of college on either side of my family. So I had to go get my bachelor's degree, then I had to get my master's degree in counseling, and then I had to do the clinical hours that are required for you to be independent as a therapist. And so just along the way, just life circumstances, you have to overcome so you can achieve your goals. So it definitely wasn't a smooth road, but it was definitely worth it because I'm able to impact generations with the work that I do.
So in terms of like going to therapy for yourself, how's it helped as like a Black woman in the community, and how's it helped as a professional?
Well, as a Black woman in the community, I think it's extremely beneficial because sometimes we have this perspective of that we have to be like superwomen. And so we're superwoman, we can't be vulnerable, we have to be strong all the time. And we put a lot of stuff on ourselves, and other people put stuff on us that we have to carry. And if we are weak, or if we're vulnerable, or if we can't handle it, then it's something wrong with us. And so being able to go to therapy and understand that you can do all those things, just maybe not at the same time. And so really being able to be vulnerable and understanding that I have to do what I'm comfortable doing and what's within my means. And if I'm not able to do everything at that same time, it's fine. So I think just being able to understand that, um, and taking care of myself. And so always prioritizing other people and learning like it's important as a Black woman, as a person in general, to practice self-care. So practice the self-care and put boundaries in place so you can be the best person that you can be. And so that I would say that is what helped me as far as like just a Black woman in general in the community. And as far as a professional, it's just beneficial to be on the other side, to know what your clients are experiencing. And so one of the things that was eye opening for me, I had found a therapist that I really, really liked. And she had to leave because she decided to take a job somewhere else and she wasn't going to do private practice. And so that feeling of having that therapist that you're connected with, transition to leave, it was very helpful for me to have that experience and know like, okay, this is what my client, similar to what my client may feel if we have to terminate services. And so that was very insightful, and just like, how does it feel to be on the other side, pouring out your secrets and concerns and fears, and being able to understand what that feels like and have that empathy, and concern to kind of help nurture and support them through that process. So I think it's been beneficial professionally and personally.
Great. So what are issues you find in the Black community that are like prevalent now, like a daily issues or issues from childhood?
Prevalent now is probably more racial issues, especially around the climate that we're in. And so just a lot of secondary trauma. Like, we may not necessarily have been George Floyd, but we have people that look like him. It could have been our brother or our uncle or our dad. And so really understanding that, the space that we're in and how to manage those fears and anxiety about the things that are happening in this country. And also understanding that it's not new. It's not new at all. It's just being recorded. So these are things that have been going on for a long time. And so when you have people in the community that look like you and exposed to this type of behavior, well, we still have to go to work. We still have to go to school. We still have all these obligations that are requiring us to come outside the safety of our home. So how do I manage those emotions and that anxiety when I step outside of my house? And so really trying to learn how to cope with the anxiety of just the social climate and managing the amount of social media that you're intaking. And so just watching a lot of stuff on social media, watching the deaths on the videos of the deaths online is very traumatizing and should be limited or not watched at all because it's definitely impactful.
Yeah, great. So, in terms of social media and like watching stuff too, what are some ways people can receive therapy and like the virtual ways too, with all this stuff going on, like COVID and like the protests and like people losing their lives, losing family members too? What are some ways people can be able to receive therapy in the virtual age?
Well, thankfully now we do have the ability to do therapy virtually. So there are different platforms and different therapists that you can actually sign on, kind of like this. You get a login password, you just sign in on an encrypted platform, and you have your therapy session just like you would if you were in the office. And so I think there's been a shift because a lot of times previously people preferred, of course, to be in the office, and they were really reluctant to do virtual sessions. But now that it's forced, people are being able to see that it actually works. So it works if you're virtually, it works if you're in person. You just may have a preference. But I definitely wouldn't recommend not getting the therapy that you need because you don't want to be online. You could be, I use a platform, like you could be in your car, you could be on a computer, you could be on a tablet, you know, wherever you can find a comfortable space with some privacy, you can log into that therapy session. And so it's just depending on what therapist that you reach out to.
Great. So, in terms of like how people can like and then pay for a therapy session or not able to where able to find a therapy session, what are some ways people can go through like resources for that in terms of like paying for that and finding resources that help them specifically?
Well, it varies. I know for myself, I have like pro bono spaces. So I have a certain amount of spaces that I'll take someone pro bono. And I'm also signed up through an organization called openpathcollective.org. And so this organization where they offer services for people who can't afford regular prices. So I think their lowest price like $30 for individual therapy, $30 to $50, $30 to $60. And the therapists that sign up on their platform agree that they have to take the amount that's offered within the platform. And so that's a way that people can find affordable therapy. And also, if you find a therapist that you happen to like, you could just call them and say, hey, I saw your profile. I'm interested in services with you. However, I can't afford it right now, or this is my budget. Do you do sliding scale fee? And sliding scale fee is when they adjust their normal price to accommodate your budget based on your inability to afford the regular rate. So it's definitely ways to get services if it's needed. And there's also like crisis lines. Like I know, I'm not sure what state you're in, but in Georgia, we have the Georgia crisis line where you can call the crisis line 24 hours, 7 days a week and talk to a licensed therapist. And they'll also have resources to refer you to get services as well.
Great. So we talked a little about the virtual age of therapy too, but how else has it changed in the mental health field over time in the last like 2 years?
I think it's changed just because it's more virtual. Like it was like so like weird, like, oh my gosh, like they're, you know, a therapist is doing online therapy or they have an online practice. It's like really, it wasn't necessarily looked at as something normal. It was something that it was an option, but it wasn't popular. And so I think now that just modern technology in general, and I'm in the Atlanta area and traffic is horrible. And so do I really, it is, you know, do I really want to sit in traffic for an hour to get to my appointment, to sit in the lobby and then have my appointment and then get back in the car to drive in traffic, where I could just log onto my computer and just log on and I don't have to deal with traffic. I don't have to be in a lobby area waiting to see my therapist. So it's just a lot more convenient and it's great time management because if people have like a lunch break, they can have a therapy session virtually on their lunch break. Whereas if they had to go to the office, it's not enough drive time and session time to do that during a lunch period. So I think it's just moving more to what's more convenient and access to a larger range of therapists. Because if you are driving, you're going to go to someone that's close in your area, and there may be someone that's more qualified or more seasoned in a different area of town, but you're not going to drive 2 hours, to get to that person. But if you have a virtual session, you could just log onto the computer and have that access.
Right. So after a session, I think it's important to go to therapy, but after a session is probably the hard part too. So what are some ways people can like progress and like have a positive like outlook after therapy and like continuing on to like better their lives?
Well, after therapy is definitely important, but that's typically discussed in the therapy session. And as a therapist, I always say you don't open a can of worms you can't close. And so what that means is we're not going to have a session and you're going to leave distraught and inability to function. Now, you may be sad or you may still be thinking about things if it was something like really sad or traumatic, but you're not going to just leave the session with raw emotions and not have the ability to cope. Because as a therapist, we want to make sure before you leave the office that you're in a space that you can manage the emotions that you're feeling and giving you coping skills and kind of help contain that and bring you into a place where you can function effectively. And so depending on the therapist and their treatment modalities and what that person is going through, they may get just homework to help cope. Like it may be like, okay, well, go write in your journal, go for a walk, go, grab an ice cream cone, go take a bubble bath, go talk to your friend, go meditate, go do yoga. It's different things for different people. And so that's something that you would discuss with your therapist about what is it that I should do after I leave here. Because every therapy session isn't like happy and you're leaving there like, yay. People have real life experiences with stuff that sucked. It wasn't good, it wasn't healthy, and it was very traumatic and hurtful. So when you're processing, talking through those things, it's necessary and the outcome is well worth it, but you still have to go through that process of healing. And when you're going through the process of healing, it doesn't necessarily feel good. It's kind of like if you break a bone, and you have surgery, it's painful recovering from the surgery, but the bone is healing. And after you get through that pain, you'll be healed and much better than what you were before. So just really trying to manage working through the pain in a healthy way so you can get the outcome that you want.
Right. So one issue, I don't know how it is in the South though, like with the police and mental health though, but like a lot of people have been talking nationwide about ways we can deal with like policing without dealing with police for mental health. So what are some ways or some resources that people could look for if somebody's in distress or somebody in the community that needs help besides like calling the police?
Well, I know here in Georgia, we have a Georgia crisis line, like a mobile unit. So say if someone is psychotic or having suicidal ideations, you can call a number and they will actually send someone out. So you're not calling 911, you're calling the mobile crisis unit and they'll come out and do an assessment to assist with that person. And so I would hope most places have that. I'm not sure. But if they don't, you can always, if that person's in therapy, contact their therapist directly. Go to different support groups, like different organizations, like NAMI is a group that does like family support training. And so if you have someone in your family or friends, or you just want the information, you can go to trainings about how do I deal with someone with a mental health diagnosis? What are the symptoms? And when I see these symptoms, what do I do to kind of help them in that situation? And so learning how not to escalate that person and de-escalate them. And a lot of times it's just listening to that person and not accusing them of things and allow them the space to kind of calm down in a safe manner. And so I would say, honestly, the police would be the last resort unless it's like immediate danger. I would definitely try to resort to their therapist, seeing you can find someone that they trust, that they're comfortable with talking to. So if it's someone that has like a diagnosis and you already know this, kind of have like a safety plan. Like if you happen to have an episode, what would you like for me to do in that episode? And they can tell you, I want you to leave me alone, give me some space, or I want you to call my mom, or, you know, whatever it is, as long as it's not detrimental to their well-being, just have those conversations proactively about what can I do to assist you versus being reactive and like freaking out. Like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Because this person is having these symptoms. And then you're in a panic, they're in a panic, and it's not going to make the situation any better. But if it's a situation where weapons are involved, your safety is in jeopardy and that person's safety is in jeopardy, and it's not a situation where you can safely just talk to them and you need professional intervention, if you have to call the police and let them know that the person has a mental health diagnosis. Ask them, do you have a officer that is trained in mental health, and can you send that particular officer here? And so it's not guaranteed, you know, but it's a step that you can take to at least assist and try to get someone out that's more understanding of what's going on with the situation versus someone that has absolutely no clue about, you know, mental illnesses and symptoms and stuff like that, and they're just responding in a way that's just very unhelpful and toxic.
Great. So, say somebody goes to therapy for like maybe like a couple sessions, doesn't work for them too. What do you recommend as a therapist and professional they do, like resources outside of therapy, or like how are they maybe like find another therapist?
So if they go to 2 therapy sessions and they don't like the therapist,
yeah, if it doesn't work out for them, like therapy is not working out for them, yeah.
I definitely recommend finding another therapist. It is it's heartbreaking for me to hear stories where it's like, well, I tried therapy before, I didn't like it, or it didn't work. And it's typically because of the rapport that they had with that therapist. And so every therapist is not for everyone. Just like it's super important to have therapists of color. So we can have someone that looks like us to help us through our issues, that can kind of have insight and understanding of the experiences that we have, instead of minimizing and questioning the experiences that we have because they have no clue. And so I always tell my clients, I said, you know, this is about you. So if you don't feel a connection with me or you don't think this is going to work, I do not take it personally. The goal is for you to get the help that you need. So if it doesn't work with one therapist, just go to another one. Like, we're professionals. We understand, like, we're not a fit for everyone. And sometimes clients will come in, it's like, you're outside of my scope. Like, that's not my specialty, and I don't think I could be the best therapist for you. So I'm going to refer you to someone else. So it's not anything personal. This is about being empowered and getting the help that you need. You don't have to worry about protecting the therapist's feelings or feeling bad because, oh my gosh, I should make it work. No, go find the therapist that's for you, because there's therapists that specialize, like I specialize in addiction, marriage and family therapy, trauma. I don't do eating disorders. So if you come and you have an eating disorder, you're trying to force this to work with me because, you know, I was the first therapist you found. I have some knowledge, but it's not my specialty. So you will benefit far more with someone that's their specialty. And so finding the therapist that is for your particular issue is important, as well as the chemistry that you have with that therapist. I went through several therapists before I found my therapist. I was like, yo, you're not going to work. Just not you. Okay. That one worked.
So in terms of like addiction and marriage too, is usually like the family member that like brings the person there, is usually a person that comes themselves, or is it like in terms of like marriage, is like one person that comes and the other person like agrees to it, or how does that usually work for them too? People watching or watching after this.
All of the above. My wife made me come. My husband made me come, and they don't necessarily want to be there, but it's like that was the ultimatum. Like, either you coming or we're not gonna be together. And so they came. And there's people that are like proactive and they just want to make sure like we're being healthy and we have longevity in our relationship. There are people that are there but are scared. And it's like, well, I don't really know what to expect because I've never had therapy before, and it's weird because you're a stranger and I'm coming here to tell you all my business and I don't know what to expect. So the first thing is just going. You know, if your partner doesn't want to go, even coming to therapy, that's helpful, because I need to know. If you come here like, I'm like, what, Marshawn Lynch, you know what I'm here for. I'm only here so I'll get fine. You know, like, I'm only here so I don't have no more problems at home with her. So when you come in there, that's where we're going to start from. It's just, it's helpful because I know where to start. If you come in here like, yay, I'm all in, we're going to make this thing work, my approach in therapy is going to be different because, okay, at that point, you're completely invested. You both are invested. Okay, I can move forward in this particular way. But if you come in and one is like completely checked out, you know, like 1 foot out the door, I can't use that same approach for someone who's literally halfway out of the door. I have to address the fact that they may not know what they want, or they may be considering divorce. And so we need to get on the same page on what the purpose is of the session. Are we trying to reconcile? Are we trying to head towards co-parenting? Like, is this can you even reconcile this relationship? Like, what is going on? So whenever people say, well, I'm not going to drag them and make them go to therapy if they don't want to go, if they say they'll come and you have a good therapist, we know how to work with that. Like, we know how to roll with the resistance of someone reluctantly coming. And then most people that I found, when they come and they talk to me, they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like, okay, I can do this. This is okay. This is cool. Because they have this picture, whether it's from movies or what people have told them, like what therapy is. Like, you're going to lay on the couch and they're looking down on you and all this stuff. And how do you feel? Definitely, I'm going to ask you how you feel because I'm a therapist. But it's not a judgmental environment. Like, when you come to therapy, it's all about you. If you don't have anywhere else in your life that's all about you, therapy is that place. Because the goal is for you to become the best version of yourself, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. And that's what your therapist is going to focus on. And so your therapist may have different treatment modalities, but it's person-centered about you and your goals and what you're trying to achieve out of the process. So it's not judgment. Like, people, like, a lot of times in addiction, people feel guilty. So they're like, oh man, I tried to do good. I did good for 2 weeks and then I messed up. So they're beating themselves up and they have shame and guilt about the fact that they slipped up. Well, when you come to therapy, I'm not going to beat you up because you slipped up. Like, you slipping up does not null and void the fact that you've done well for 2 weeks. You just have to get back on track. And so what do we need to do? What happened that caused that slip up? And how do we get you back on track in a way that you don't feel the shame and guilt of the slip up? Because relapse is honestly a part of recovery. There are very few people that are in recovery that never relapse ever. There are some, but that's not the majority. It's a process. And so being able to give that reassurance that it's a process, and if this happens, that's not the goal, but I'm not going to beat myself up because it's counterproductive, because then I'm going to feel bad. Then I'm going to drink because I feel bad. So drinking makes me feel better. And then now you're back in the cycle of using because you're treating the shame and the guilt with alcohol. So it's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to uplift you and encourage you and identify what triggered you to do that and see if we can fix it and prevent it from happening next time.
Great. So, in terms, I think like society makes us like feel guilty, you know, or like perfectionists, like in our like thoughts. Like, if you like you're saying like, yeah, relapse someone that you're gonna feel guilty about, like, oh, I had a drink or I had a smoke or something like that too. So it's like you can't beat ourselves up too, you know.
Right. Because it's a journey and it's a process. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. It took you years to develop those same behavior patterns. So it's not going to just like one session and like I have a magic wand, like, boop, like, you're done. It doesn't work that way.
So in terms of like now, like with like COVID and unemployment going on too, what can you recommend for somebody in the pandemic now, like to help them like cope and help them moving forward in the future now, so they can like reach their goals, reach their dreams?
Well, I think the first thing is to realize we're in a pandemic. You know, it's baffling to me that people are thinking like everyone should be functioning as normal, and we're not in a normal situation. And so people are like beating themselves up or beating other people up, like, why aren't you doing this? You should be doing that. But we are literally in the midst of a pandemic. You're literally concerned about your life. Like, am I going to get COVID? Did I not get COVID? Did I touch someone? Did they sneeze on me? Like, your mind is all over the place trying to figure out like how to survive in the midst of a pandemic. So it's going to impact your functioning. Some people more than others. And so really what I would say is, one, recognize we're in a pandemic and it's not going to be exactly the same as it was prior to the pandemic. And the other thing is do the best that you can and be kind to yourself. And so if you know you're struggling and you're isolated and you don't have those outlets that you once had, try to find substitutes. So if you know you're like a very social person and you can't be social because it's not safe, do Zoom parties, do conference calls. As I call them, do drive-bys. Like, okay, I'm gonna drive by and I'm gonna stand in the driveway and you stay on the porch and talk or something like that. But try to find substitutes that could help kind of minimize the impact that it has on your life. And seeking professional help and eating and exercising and finding healthy coping skills to kind of help manage the best that you can. And that's all that we really can do. It looks different for different people. And so just doing the things that before were working, do those things if you can. And whatever wasn't working, then throw those things out. But I want people to understand that there are things that you do for coping skills that people didn't even realize was coping skills. Like it was just their regular daily routine. When I get up and I drive and go to work and I grab my coffee and I listen to my music or my podcast in the morning. Okay, when you're stuck in the house, you're no longer getting out of the house. You're not listening to your podcast. You're not getting your coffee. You're not listening to whatever songs and dancing in the car and things that you used to do. And those things were coping skills, but people didn't view them as coping skills because like it's regular stuff. Like, what do you mean coping skills? That's weird. Like I was in my car dancing. Okay, well, dancing in your car is a healthy outlet. And all of this stuff was abruptly just snatched away from us. So it's definitely impactful because the things that we did that were working for us that we didn't realize the purpose and how effective they were gone. And so then we're wondering, like, why do I feel down? I feel depressed. I'm not motivated. I can't do anything. What day is it? That's the whole thing. Like, what day is it? I don't know what time. Like, what? Everything is running together. And so really trying to figure out how to create some semi-structured schedule that you can implement at home and identifying healthy coping skills and healthy people to talk to, because I do know alcohol use has definitely increased because people are home more. And so it's a lot easier to take a sip of wine than it is to maybe go do some exercise or, do other things. It's like, oh, how hard is it to take a sip of this drink that's readily available? And so if you find yourself like increasing your intake in alcohol or smoking, try not to have it in the house, because if it's easy accessible, you're more likely to consume it. So try not to have alcohol or substances in the house. Figure out other substitute for coping skills that you can use, like say exercise and yoga. Find new hobbies like crafts, and I see people now a lot of making like t-shirts and masks and all kind of stuff. So just the time that you didn't have before to do things, if you can, take advantage of this time. Rest, whatever it is that you can do that will be helpful, that's healthy. I would recommend doing those things.
So in terms of finding that balance, not feeling guilty, how would people go about that too? Like, what are some ways to like tell yourself, oh, I shouldn't feel guilty about this. I shouldn't feel like I should be doing something right now. It's not feel about relaxing or so.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. And a lot of people feel that way, especially people who are used to doing, and they always do, and they're go, go, go. And it's like, I have to sit still. What do you mean sit still? I got to sit, like, what do you mean? I need to do something. I need to be doing something. I need to be doing something. And you can't. So then now it's like, you're freaking out because you can't do anything, but you feel like you need to be doing something, or you're used to doing stuff and then you're not at all. And then you feel like, well, I'm being lazy because I should be doing something. And I will tell people all the time, resting is doing something. Taking care of yourself is doing something. You don't always have to have a specific task to complete. Like, I need to read this particular book and finish this assignment and pick up this person. Your body needs rest. We are in the midst of a pandemic. So you taking care of yourself is the best thing that you can do, so you can be the best version of yourself as a student, an employee, a spouse, whatever role that you play. If you're taking care of yourself, it's just going to make you a better version of yourself. So I would say, when you have the thoughts of like, I should be doing something, I feel guilty because I'm just relaxing and binge watching Netflix, that could be a coping skill to help you manage everything that's going on. And so if it's beneficial for you to binge watch a TV show, binge watch a TV show. Now, if you find yourself and you literally like excessively can't do anything, you're not able to do anything, and you feel like depressed or lack of motivation, you feel very fatigued, then those may be some clinical symptoms that you may need some support in. But if it's just like occasionally, twice a week or something like that, I'm just chilling, watching TV or whatever, then that's fine. If you have deadlines and things you need to prioritize those things that need to be accomplished, and then rest. So resting is doing something.
Great. I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your expertise and helping people out there, especially in this time and age, different times. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for watching. Oh wait, let me get your information so people can find you before we end this.
Okay. So I am on Instagram at _ATL_therapist. And my website is www.latriciapitts.com. And my Facebook business page is Latricia Pitts, LPC.
Great. So thank you guys for watching. It's been the Countless Vlog at Latricia Pitts, mental health professional. Make sure you guys revise this again on the Countless Vlogcast. Subscribe, and then make sure you guys reach out if you need help. And thank you guys for watching.
Thank you. Be safe and take